And welcome back to the Touchline Talk Show. Okay, here we go. U.S. men's national team. Now that these guys have a couple games under their belts, we know for the most part where they're going to be playing this season. Some of them that is still a question with the transfer window still open. But by and large, we've got a feel for what this is going to look like. I thought this would be a good time to sort of break down where I feel like all of these guys are. And most of this is coming from my perspective, not Greg Berhalter's. If I am putting together this team, this is where I feel we're at this moment in time. So I've broken it down to four groups. First class, which are your locks, guys that are going no matter what, as long as they're healthy. Business class, the guys who should feel pretty good about the spot. Not that it's guaranteed, but I would be surprised if they don't make it. They're sort of the first guys I would look to outside of the obvious ones. Economy class, to me, these are the last guys on the roster. So I actually have a 26 person roster between these three classes. And then I've got some guys on standby. The next players I'm going to, if for whatever reason somebody has a terrible run of form, injuries, all of that kind of thing, sort of the next guys up. So we're going to start with first class again. These are the locks that at this point, basically, from a performance standpoint, they can't do anything to take themselves off of the plane. I've got 14 guys on this list in this category. Christian Pulisic, Brendan Aronson, Tim Weah, Gio Reyna, Jesus Ferreira, Weston McKennie, Tyler Adams, Yunus Musa, Jedi Robinson, Walker Zimmerman, Aaron Long, DeAndre Yedlin, Matt Turner, and Zach Steffen. I don't feel the need to explain all of these guys. A couple points I want to make, though, before we get to the more interesting conversations. Tim Weah was just too good in qualifying to leave off the roster. I don't really care what he does at the club level. He reached a point for me where he's just part of the team. No matter how much playing time he's getting, how he's playing, he's been too good and too comfortable in this national team setup for me to consider the possibility of not taking him because of his performance at the club level. And I feel the same way about what Jesus Ferreira is doing in Major League Soccer. Not only is he the front runner to start at the 9, but he's been one of the best players in the league this season. I'm simply taking him. It doesn't matter to me what he does in these last two friendlies, assuming he gets called up. He's just on the plane unless he falls off the face of the earth, which I don't see happening at all. And then this is the one part where I did cater a little bit to Greg Berhalter, in the sense that, to me, DeAndre Yedlin is a lock because he is playing. Right, he's getting consistent playing time. It looks like Miami's going to make the playoffs. Not a guarantee, but they've really picked things up the past couple weeks. And so I want a right back who is playing. And he is also easily one of the most experienced players, period. And especially on the defense and at that right back position, I want the experienced guy who's been there before. I put Aaron Long and Zach Steffen on the locks list because they are, to me, the two most quote-unquote Berhalter guys. So this is where I did cater to what I have seen from Greg Berhalter, because whether they're locks or business class for me, it doesn't make that much of a difference. So I did cater this a little bit more to, I'm going to sort of defer to what I've seen from Greg Berhalter. And what I've seen is Aaron Long immediately became the replacement for Miles Robinson, and Zach Steffen basically started every game he could when he was available. Does that mean Zach Steffen is the starting keeper in the World Cup? No. But I still think again, if he is healthy, he's on the plane. Whether you or I like it or not, That's the reality of the situation in my mind. And I feel the same way about Aaron Long. And Aaron Long did nothing during qualifying to raise questions about whether he should be one of the center backs included in this team. So he certainly doesn't even need the benefit of the doubt. And I'm giving the benefit of the doubt to Zach Steffen because he's getting playing time no matter how well it goes. And Greg Berhalter seems to have a strong preference for him. So those are my 14 locks. Now we get to the business class. These are the guys that are sort of the second tier for me, where you get outside of the obvious ones. These are the guys that I personally feel like need to be on that plane. And then you get into the difficult final decisions. But I have 6 guys in this group. So 14 locks, 6 in business class, which then leaves 6 in the economy class as sort of the last guys. Business, I have Kellen Acosta, Paul Arriola, Luca Deletori, Christian Roldan, Serginho Dest, Chris Richards. Kellen Acosta is here for 2 reasons. Number 1, he is the backup 6 to Tyler Adams. Tyler Adams is probably going to start all 3 games of the group stage. He will start at least 2 of them. But you still need to have somebody available to play that position, A, so that he doesn't have to play every single minute, and B, simply in case Tyler Adams can't play every minute for whatever reason. And also, Kellen Acosta is the best free kick taker on this team, in this pool. So when you're looking at, theoretically, these guys coming off the bench, I want that weapon available to me. And he was really good and reliable and one of the most used players during qualifying. Serginho Dest, for me, is not a lock because unless he gets a move, I'm not convinced he's going to play at the club level. Xavi seems to have no use for him whatsoever. And there's also the second part of this, which is the depth at the right back position. Yes, I want Serginho Dest on the plane regardless of whether he ends up staying at Barcelona or whether he moves before this transfer window closes. But I am not willing to put a player who is not getting playing time at a position where there are plenty of other good options as a lock. That might be a little bit of a hot take. If he was sort of in the same position Jedi Robinson is on the left side, where he is the guy, I would feel a little differently. But I feel just fine with the other options available at right back. DeAndre Yedlin, Reggie Cannon, Shaq Moore. So, Dest is only in business class for me. Luca Deletori was phenomenal during qualifying. And he gives you sort of the opportunity to spell Weston McKennie and Yunus Musa in the sense that he's a ball carrier, a connector. He's going to give you some of those same attributes that make that midfield so balanced with Tyler Adams sitting behind. And you can certainly use more than 2 of those guys, especially when you would have to think, or at least the primary midfield that's been used involves 2 of them. So you need some guys to spell those 2 at some point and potentially start a game. So I'm, much like a lot of other people, big fan of Luca Deletori. And Paul Arriola also has been very good during qualifying. He gives you a little bit of that Brendan Aronson never say die relentlessness and edge. And also he's been quite good for FC Dallas. He is producing goals and assists at the MLS level. So when you're talking about sort of those final winger spots outside of the obvious ones, that's the first guy I'm looking to. I will always go to bat for Christian Roldan having a spot on this plane. The injury he just suffered and underwent surgery for, he's now out 4 to 6 weeks, is a concern. But assuming he gets back and has time to reacclimate himself as part of a potential Sounders playoff run, if that happens. Regardless, if he is back to full fitness by the time these decisions need to be made, or will be, Berhalter knows he will be by the time the World Cup starts, I want him on the plane. I want him because, again, I think he offers you something a little bit different, and he can play just about any position on the field. You can put him out wide. You can put him... He's another guy who sort of can play the 6. I'm not in love with that, and he's certainly gotten away from it at the national team level, which I find interesting. But he can... I will always want that guy who's got that versatility and can do so many different things for you. And I also just think he's a really, really good player. And then finally, Chris Richards. Somebody needs to, be a center back participating on this team outside of Walker Zimmerman and Aaron Long. He didn't do anything to hurt himself during qualifying. Am I in love with his current situation in Crystal Palace? No. But I would prefer that to a lot of the other options we're going to get to at the center back position. And I also think he's got the most potential and the most talent of this sort of next group of center backs. And maybe he gets himself into the Crystal Palace team by the time the World Cup run comes around. I'm not overly concerned if he doesn't. So those are my 6 guys in business. And then we get to economy class. So these are my last 6 guys on the roster as of right now. Obviously, this can change with form, injuries, things that happen between now and when Greg Berhalter actually has to make these decisions. But the last 6 guys I have: Jordan Peafock, Jordy Mihailovich, who is on his way to AZ Alkmaar in the Eredivisie after the MLS season ends, Cameron Carter-Vickers, Tim Rheem, Reggie Cannon, Sean Johnson. I refuse to leave Jordan Peafock off the plane at this moment in time after what he did at Young Boys and what he's done at Union Berlin, when nobody is convinced the number 9 position is figured out. I don't care if he's not exactly the player Greg Berhalter wants. I don't necessarily care if he's the starter. He is scoring goals and producing in the Bundesliga after he was just spectacular in Switzerland. I am with this chorus of people saying nobody is satisfied with the number 9, but we're not giving him an opportunity, and he's been the best one from a club standpoint. Right there with everybody saying that. And now he's doing it in the Bundesliga. He is proving that this was not just simply a result. I never bought this argument anyway, but he's proving it's not just a result of being in a sort of mid-tier European league. So that then goes into Jordy Mihailovich. I'm a big Jordy Mihailovich guy, which is why I currently have him on the plane. He's been spectacular for Montreal. And again, when you're talking about these guys who are going to theoretically be coming off the bench, Gio Reyna gives you some of this. But in that midfield, there just is not a lot of passing, creativity, and playmaking in the way that Jordy Mihailovich offers it to you. Right? Weston McKennie, Yunus Musa are kind of these two-way guys. They're really good technically, but they're not necessarily playmakers. And I still see Gio Reyna more in the Christian Pulisic mold of liking to take guys one-on-one and sort of display your technical ability that way. Whereas Jordy Mihailovich is yes, he scores a lot of goals, but he also creates an incredible amount of chances. He just gives you a different kind of creativity, a different kind of flair that to me, nobody else in this squad offers. So I'm going heavy on midfielders because I love the idea of being able to throw all of these different options out there depending on the situation. Whether it's Christian Roldan, whether it's Jordy Mihailovich, whether it's Luca Deletori, whatever the situation calls for, I believe if Greg Berhalter brings all these midfielders, he can create a midfield trio that can solve the problem. Then we get to the center backs. I wasn't comfortable going with 4, so that meant I had to pick 2 more. Cameron Carter-Vickers was an easy choice for me because we didn't see much of him during the build-up to this World Cup in the qualifying cycle, but I have no reason to be concerned. He was spectacular for Celtic last season. Again, now playing in the Champions League, you're not asking him to go out there and be this team's primary center back. And quite frankly, I just don't like any of the other options. So I give Chris Richards the slight edge just because you've seen more of him and how he works in this national team setup in this system. But I feel very comfortable with Cameron Carter-Vickers as center back number 4. And I've got Tim Rheem center back number 5. Unlike Chris Richards, Tim Rheem is playing regularly in the Premier League, playing quite well, and has the captain's armband for a team that's unbeaten in their first 3 games. Tim Rheem is not a left back. Let's just get that out there right now. We need to take that out of this conversation. That was a bad decision I was never a fan of. It went about exactly how you would expect. But Tim Rheem has been excellent. That has to count for something at a position where there are so many question marks and so many unproven players. And the other part of this for me is, okay, we're talking about a 5th center back. I'm not saying Tim Rheem needs to go in there and start. But wouldn't you want the super experienced guy and the guy that if he does have to play, you can put him right next to his club teammate who he plays with every day in training, and then their, game or 2 a week? For an inexperienced team that is coming from so many different leagues, that has so little continuity, the idea of bringing in another veteran presence who also I feel very comfortable with on the field at this point, even if, again, going back to Berhalter, I understand Greg Berhalter's concerns about how Tim Rheem fits into this system. I'm not a huge fan of Tim Rheem playing a central role in this World Cup. But if something happens and you need to throw him out there of urgency, I trust him. And I just love the idea of, if this is going to be one of the last guys on your roster you use, if everything goes to plan, you probably don't use him at all. Give me the super experienced guy who, if he has to play, has an incredible amount of familiarity with the guy that's going to be right next to him. Reggie Cannon wanted the third right back. Already had DeAndre Yedlin and Serginho Dest in there. I am short on defenders. I acknowledge that. I expect Gerhalter's going to bring one more than I do. But this is my team, and I wanted to stress the midfield. So what this allows you is Serginho Dest is my backup left back, and Tim Rheem can play there in a pinch. But I also have the intention of starting Anthony Robinson every single game. So, hopefully, not having a backup left back, not a major concern. But if that happens, Serginho Dest can go play there. I mean, Christian Roldan could make it work. And then you still have DeAndre Yedlin and Reggie Cannon. I went with Reggie Cannon over Shaq Moore just because his resume is more impressive overall, both at the club level and on the national team. A little bit more experience playing in Europe. So I've just seen a little bit more of him, and I've really liked what I've seen. Also, really like what Shaq Moore has done. He just hasn't done quite enough for me yet. And then finally, Sean Johnson. I I need a goalie I can trust. Again, this is not sort of deciding who is going to start and all of that kind of stuff. But I am skeptical of Zach Steffen. I will defend Matt Turner until the death. He also hasn't played, for Arsenal. There is no guarantee he will be ever getting regular minutes. And we don't know what a Matt Turner who isn't playing every single week looks like. So that makes him a question mark for me too. Now, I am 100% bringing him and I am starting him still. But there is a peace of mind for me knowing I have a goalkeeper who's been good for the national team, who plays every single week and generally does well in Major League Soccer, just won an MLS Cup, all of that stuff. So that's why Sean Johnson gets the nod for me as the third goalkeeper. So then, standby. Here's my list of guys who are the first calls I'm making if, for whatever reason, one of these guys needs to be replaced, be it injury or they just really fall off a cliff in terms of form. Striker position, I really wanted to find a way to put Brandon Vasquez on this team. I really, really did. But there was just too much. Again, I love the options in midfield. And so there was a price to pay for me emphasizing that. And now you have Jesus Ferreira and Tim Weah and Jordan Peafock who can all play through the middle. You can throw Brendan Aronson up there as a false nine. You can throw Christian Pulisic up there as a false nine. I'm just not losing sleep over not having a third out-and-out striker. But if there is an option for a third one, that is the call I am making. Josh Sargent, terrific week. Definitely got yourself back into the conversation. I just want to see what happens to Josh Sargent the rest of this season and specifically the next month or so when Teemu Pukki comes back. Is he actually going to get an extended run of games at the striker position, or was that out of necessity and the minute Teemu Pukki is healthy, he's back on the wing being rather irrelevant? Because Josh Sargent scoring 3 goals in 2 games as a striker is not getting him on this point. He got it everybody's attention. And props to him. Got to build on that though. I'm just not convinced he's going to. Brandon Vasquez is a perfect fit in my head too for what this team wants to be and how they want to operate. I really, really hope he is in this squad that gets called up for these final 2 tune-up games. I just want to see it and give him that opportunity. So he's my first standby. Second one is Jordan Morris. Again, I tried just about every way possible to find a way to put Jordan Morris on the plane, but that winger position is so, so tough. And quite frankly, Paul Arriola has been better than him. That's what it came down to. I was taking one or the other, and I'm taking Arriola 10 times out of 10 right now. Not that Morris has been bad, he just hasn't been at his best this season. And Paul Arriola has been pretty spectacular. And there's also the fact that, Jordan Morris is still also just kind of working his way back into the national team picture. And Paul Arriola has very much been involved over the last year or so. Then I got John Brooks on the list. I don't feel good about it. I would love for him to, have a team he's playing for. I just ran out of center back options. The only other one that came to my head really was, Mark McKenzie maybe gets his way into here. Eric Palmer-Brown. But at that point, I want the guy who's been there before. Again, if you're the final center back, it's not like you have to play him. I wouldn't feel all that good about considering how this is all playing out for John Brooks. I wouldn't feel great if he actually made this team. But if I need to go to a sixth center back at this moment in time, he's the one I'm going for. Then I have George Bellow as a backup left back. Wanted to actually have somebody that is naturally on the left side in the standby group. I just felt a little more confident with what I've seen from him with the national team than Joe Scally. Don't feel great about either of them. Again, I'm starting Anthony Robinson every single game. But if I got to pick one of them, I'm picking George Bellow. The other two guys I have here, Ethan Horvath, Malik Tillman. If you got to go to a fourth goalkeeper, I like what I've seen from Horvath for the most part. Of course, he's been part of this group. So for continuity's sake, I'm throwing him in there as that backup goalkeeper option. And quite honestly, I am really hesitant to jump all over this Malik Tillman thing and go from, nobody really knew who this guy was to this guy has to be part of the team in the span of a year. But boy, has he been good for Rangers. And to me, this is also back into if he played a different position, I would be more inclined to put him onto the squad. But I just look at the guys he would be. Who are you taking off to put him on? And if you want to say Jordy Mihailovich, fine. I disagree, but that is valid. Other than that, it gets really, really difficult. So I just don't think he has quite enough time unless there are some spots that open up to convince Greg Berhalter and me that he should be on this plane. Now, the other exciting part of this is part of this is also building for 2026. And we're getting to the point where we need to put Malik Tillman in that conversation of what the core of this team looks like moving forward. Because to me, him finding a way to get named to this squad is him way overachieving. I don't even necessarily care how well he performs for Rangers, how impressive he is. Just simply the idea of him breaking into this team with this little experience at the top level would be incredible because of the guys he's going to have to pass to do it. Again, this goes back to we got to change the conversation about this team. These aren't guys just trying to make it in Europe. These are guys who are performing in Europe. Multiple leagues, consistently. When they get the chance. Christian Pulisic. And so it's terrific he's performing for a Scottish Premier League team and is going to be playing in the Champions League. I'm excited to watch him. He's an incredibly exciting player. For me, it's too soon. If you want to say he needs to be there, my question is, who are you taking out? And like I said, I'll buy it. It's Jordy Mihailovich. I'm a huge Mihailovich guy. I'm always going to be biased toward him in this conversation. But when we're talking about 2026, and you're asking me to put a team together, 100% Malik Tillman is on it. He is going to be an exciting, important part of this team moving forward. I'm just not there for this tournament, this squad, this situation.